The title of our talk is Instant Buy Everywhere, How to Turbocharge Mobile Monetization, and so how you can score more goals when it comes to monetizing your apps. So I'm Prakash Hariramani. I'm a product manager in the Google Wallet team, and with me is...
I'm Michael Galpin. I'm the engineer on the Wallet team.
And today we're going to talk about a few things, but before we talk about the details, I just want to mention that we were here last year standing in front of you when we launched this product called Instant Buy. We've come a long way since then, and a lot of it is thanks to you all and your enthusiasm. So the three themes we have for today are platform expansion. So Instant Buy today is now on all major commerce platforms, all major mobile commerce platforms. What I mean by that is Android, iOS, mobile web, and desktop. Instant Buy everywhere. The second theme is developer expansion. So we're really gratified because we'll talk about some of the case studies and the developer interest we generated and the number of developers who are live and, more importantly, accruing benefits on the platform. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is a little bit beyond payments. Because to us, commerce is not just payments. It's about the whole shopping experience. So I use my Android phone for my entire journey when I'm shopping. It's not just when I'm making the payment, but right from the time I'm searching for something, when I want to have my loyalty or offer information be part of that journey. So we'll talk about that, too. So first, let's talk about mobile. So we are living in a mobile-first world, and this is a mobile-first product. So I'm sure you've seen similar charts like this. Mobile commerce is something that's growing extremely rapidly. As you can see in this chart, one of every 5 transactions, roughly 20% of all transactions are on mobile devices. Mobile commerce volume is supposed to be 84 billion in 2014. And if you take a step back, it's amazing that 20% of all transactions that are online will be mobile. That's almost double what it was 2 years ago. So that was the good news. So what's the bad news? Or what's the sobering news? The sobering news is a mobile checkout, a typical mobile checkout still takes about 24 steps. I'd like to have a show of hands. How many of you have tried to make a purchase on a mobile device, let's say buying a ticket or takeout, and have had to abandon it midstream? OK, well, there is hope. We'll talk about how we can solve that pain point. So why is it so difficult to buy something from a mobile device? Why 24 steps? So let's take a typical checkout flow. What happens? You select what you want. You put it into your cart. You confirm your order. And then the pain starts. So at a high level, the pain points are in 2 broad areas. One area is entering your credit card information, your expiration date, your billing address, and God forbid if your shipping address differs from your billing address. The second pain point is registration and signing up. So together, when you put these pain points together, no wonder there's a problem with conversion. 99% of mobile shoppers abandon a purchase mid-flow. Now, I started the theme saying turbocharging mobile monetization. And to get mobile monetization, you need to have high conversion. To have high conversion, you need to have less friction. And what we just talked about is actually adding friction. So how do we solve this? This is staggering. You, as developers, are losing money because of high friction. So how do we solve this problem for monetization? So we'd like to offer a solution, Google Wallet Instant Buy. And I'm going to walk through how we believe we have solved this problem. So the first thing we have done is faster checkout for physical goods. I'd like to have a show of hands again. How many of you have made a purchase on any Google property like Google Play or Drive or anything that has anything like a game or a book or something on Google? OK. Well, the good news is you all have a Google Wallet. And the better news is you can use that Google Wallet to make purchases not just on Play and Google properties, but also on third-party merchants, the ones that have integrated with Instant Buy. So speed is everything in mobile commerce. And remember I said earlier there's two big pain points. One is the pain point of entering credit card information. Well, by virtue of you having a Google Wallet, by virtue of having made a purchase on a Google property, you've eliminated that pain point. So it's really 2 taps, 2 clicks, and checkout. The second pain point I talked about was skipping registration and sign-in. So don't make your customers fill out these registration forms with special character passwords and caps and all the other hoops. If you integrate with Google Single Sign-On, essentially you can eliminate that one step. Anyone who has a Google identity, by virtue of having set up a Gmail account or having used another Google service, can enter those credentials. And I'm going to talk about this also in our case studies because customers, developers like yourself, who have integrated both single sign-on and instant buy have found higher conversion. So let's talk about security, because what I talked about earlier was the convenience. Traditionally, convenience and security has been a zero-sum game. If you can have something very convenient at the expense of security or vice versa. We believe that's a false choice, and we believe we have raised the bar on both. So with convenience, like I said earlier, if you use single sign-on, and actually if you're on an Android device, you're always logged in, we believe we have solved that friction problem. So what are we doing about security? How do we make sure the transaction is secure, both for you as a developer or merchant and for the end user, which is your customer? So, well, one is we generate a one-time virtual card for every transaction. It's like a one-time Discover card. So it's unique for that transaction, and that protects your user. The other thing we do is we have a very sophisticated risk engine. So if we suspect fraud, we will challenge the user, and in some cases deny the transaction. And that protects you as a developer. The next question that always comes up is integration. How easy or difficult is this to integrate? So the good news is it's only 1 or 2 weeks of integration. And Michael's going to talk about something we just recently released in the last few months, which is called Wallet Fragment. So that's made the integration process even easier. But there's one other important point with integration. We do not get in the middle of your payment processor or acquirer. So when we generate this one-time Discover card, it can ride the rails of your existing processor. So if you're using a Stripe or a payment tech, you don't need to make any changes. You can just continue using that payment processing. Now, that helps in many ways. One is many of our merchants and developers have said, I want to keep that existing relationship. The second way it helps is by minimizing the integration burden, because you don't have to change any of your downstream processing. And the other thing I'll add is, don't take my word for it. We have a partner showcase. We have 3 of our partners there that you will see, E24, Jack Threads, and Hotel Tonight. So I'd encourage you to go there and ask them firsthand about the integration experience. So finally, what's the catch? This sounds good. Well, there is no catch. There are no additional fees. We don't charge anything for using Google Wallet Instant Buy. Like I said earlier, if you will need a payment processor, so you'll continue paying those fees. So in summary, I think we have talked about how we can remove the pain points, pain point of entering your payment information, pain point of registration and signing up, how it's secure and convenient, and we've raised the bar on both, lightweight integration, and no additional fees. So before we talk about where we want to go, let's talk about where we have been. So like I said at the beginning of the talk, it's been about a year since we launched Instant Buy on Android, and Michael and I stood in front of you. We made you some promises, so we actually have been able to fulfill the promises, and when we talk about case studies, I'll elaborate on those. So May was like our launch on Android at I/O. This was a limited launch. We had about a dozen or so developers we announced. The next milestone we hit was October. So we opened up sandbox access to everyone. In fact, I would encourage any of you who have a mobile app or site that accepts payments, I would encourage you to go to our sandbox, go to our developer site, and kick the tires with it. The next milestone we had was this year, and we launched 2 things. One is Wallet Fragment, which I talked about, and Michael will do more justice to this than me. The other thing is wallet balance. So I use my Google Wallet a lot for sending and receiving money. Now I can use that same balance for making a purchase on an Instant Buy merchant. And Michael's going to actually do a demonstration on that too. And then just hot off the press, earlier in June, we launched on iOS. So now again, continuing the theme of Instant Buy everywhere, we are now supported on all major m-commerce platforms, including iOS.
Prakash, this is Google I/O. I don't think anybody here is using iOS.
Well, so on that note, let's switch to a demo. And I'm starving, Michael. I didn't get a chance to get breakfast. I got so excited about this talk, so I thought, let me just order some food while we're up on stage.
Sounds good.
So this is one of my favorite apps. It's E24. And for those of you who were here yesterday, there was a demo of E24 on Android Wear. So besides that, you can also use it on an iOS device. So let me try Pebbles Deli Cafe. So I can order something. I can order something right now. Well, iOS devices. So we'll OK, let's give it one more shot. OK. So while switching back, we'll come back to this, but I would encourage you to come to the E24 booth and give a shot on all major platforms.
The iOS gods are getting their revenge now.
So one thing I said earlier was, I was really gratified that we have, thanks to you all, thanks to all the developer support we got, we've come a long way since last year. So this is the representative sample of all the partners we have, like all the different verticals we are across. As you can see, some few highlights here. One is travel is one of the largest verticals in m-commerce. So we are really gratified. We have almost all the major travel companies here, like Priceline, like Expedia, like Orbitz, like Travelocity. The other thing I want to flag is order ahead. So besides E24, we also have Domino's Pizza. We launched with them recently. It's another one of my favorite order ahead apps. We have a lot of traction in retail. The other thing I want to talk about is we're really gratified that many of these are mobile-first companies. So I said earlier, we are a mobile-first product in a mobile-first world. And many of these companies are not just integrating with us. They're actually transforming the whole customer experience. So for example, Uber pioneered ride-sharing. E24 transformed the takeout experience. Airbnb transformed the hotel and tourism industry. Hotel Tonight has transformed last-minute bookings. So we're really excited that these companies have actually made us part of that journey. And when I say us, I don't just mean Google Wallet Instant Buy, but the entire Google stack. So what do I mean by that? So if you look at our partner showcase with Hotel Tonight, not only can you pay conveniently in 2 clicks with Google Wallet Instant Buy, you can have keyless entry to your hotel room. I hate standing in line, standing in a lobby when I'm trying to check into a hotel. I'd love to be able to just go to my room door and know where I'm checking in. Jack Threads, not only can I buy something fashionable, I can actually try it on in a virtual hangout before I buy it. And you can see this in action today at the partner showcase.
And you've got to check out the Android TV app from E24. I know Prakash will want to maybe order that bagel there. It's Android, so it'll work.
So I can be hungry, lazy, and stylish at the same time. OK, so let's talk a little bit about case studies. As I said earlier, we made some promises last year with this product. So one of the promises we made was conversion. And the good news is we've been able to deliver on that promise. And again, this goes to attack the problem, the 99% abandonment rate. So Rulala, as you know, is a destination for desired brands at members-only prices. They were our launch partner last year. They saw a 400% increase in conversion. And they also saw 50% more repeat purchases. So again, talking about monetization. Continuing on that theme, Fancy, they saw a 20% increase in conversion. And they also had a 14% increase in average order size. Priceline. Again, like I said, we are really gratified. We have all the major online travel agencies that have integrated with Instant Buy. And they saw 71% higher conversion rate. And they also saw a lot of traction with the share of transactions, the share of Google Wallet transactions on Android. And finally, E24. So the common theme, as you have noticed across these case studies, is conversion. So 70% increase in conversion. 1 of every 3 purchases on their Android devices is a Google Wallet transaction. And we've launched with them for just about 6 months or so. And Google Wallet users are 72% more likely to return. So again, going back to turbocharging mobile monetization, you get higher conversion, more repeat users, higher average order size. The other thing I would recommend is we have all these case studies posted publicly. I just gave you the headlines, and this is all on our website. So I'd encourage you to go check it out for yourself. And with that, I'm going to transition it to Michael.
OK. So as Prakash mentioned, Overstock.com launched a new version of their app recently that integrates Google Wallet. So now we're going to do another demo. Hopefully this one goes a little better to show you guys what the Overstock app looks like. So can we... OK. So in the app, there's lots of awesome things you can buy from Overstock. I've picked out a FIFA World Cup soccer ball that looked pretty cool. So I'm going to purchase it. This is their cart page. You'll notice the beautiful Buy with Google button down there at the bottom. So of course, I'm going to tap on that. This brings up the wallet UI, where I can use whatever credit card I want to use. Any credit card I've used to buy anything from Google, buy anything from the Play Store. Maybe I've got some Candy Crush in-app purchases I've made. All those cards will be available to me there. And a shipping address to ship to. Of course, Overstock requires a shipping address, since they're going to send me this great soccer ball. And also notice that I can use my wallet balance for this transaction. I see I've got $21 in there. That means Prakash must have paid me for our World Cup bet. I bet there'd be at least one biting that would happen during the event. And Prakash paid me by Gmail, so I've got some extra cash in there. So let's use that for my purchase. OK, so now I just go to the Overstock checkout page. I see some of the same information here that I just picked. I'm using Google Wallet, what card I'm using, and I'm using my wallet balance as well. I see my shipping address here, so I can look over this, make sure it looks good. If I want to change it, just tap on the change button. But everything looks good here, so I'm just going to go ahead and submit. And that's it. Just like that, I'm done with my purchase from Overstock. My soccer ball's on its way. They show that I paid with my Google Wallet account, so I didn't have to go in and type in a credit card number or any of that. Type in my shipping address. So, OK. So there were a few things we saw there, and I want to go back through them a little slower now. As you see, we can go through checkout very quickly using Google Wallet. But let's take things a little bit slower. The first step in integration and in that flow there was requesting what's called a mask wallet. That might sound kind of mysterious, but it's really just your wallet information, your payment information, and an address. We call it mask because we only share the last 4 digits of your credit card number. So we just tell Overstock, hey, they're going to pay with Visa ending in 1234. And we give Overstock in this case your shipping address, since they probably need that to calculate shipping costs or taxes. So that's kind of the first step, is getting that mask wallet from Google. The next step is displaying that information. So when we saw the checkout screen on Overstock, they showed that same mask wallet information, so the user sees it, the user knows, OK, yeah, this is going to the right address, and this is charging the right credit card. Once you've had a chance to review that, then you can submit the order. And that's when Overstock asks us for what we call a full wallet. A full wallet is where we generate a one-time card that we then give to Overstock, plus, again, the shipping address, since that's an important part of the transaction. That credit card is just a normal credit card number, just like a number that a user would have typed in themselves. There's no difference with it. So they can just take that, send it to their backend systems, to their order management systems, send it to their payment processor, just like they would at any other credit card, and then start the order management flow. Now, this flow hasn't changed really at all from a year ago when we launched the product. But from our launch partners, we got a lot of really useful feedback. And one of the things we realized was the first 2 steps here, the mask wallet and display mask wallet steps, a lot of times those are really, really similar for each of our partners who've integrated. It's not always the same for everybody, but in many cases it is. And so we thought, is there a way that we can learn from this and make it even easier for folks? And that's where we got the idea for the wallet fragment. The wallet fragment has a couple of modes. If you go back to the Overstock app, in that cart page, you see that Buy with Google button? That's the wallet fragment. That's the wallet fragment in the button mode. So it's just displaying that Buy with Google button. There's a couple options you have there for changing the text. You could do a buy now if you like, for example. And the button is very, very resizable. It'll very dynamically fit into whatever space you tell it to fit into. And it's just like a normal view in Android that you can give it all the different kinds of layout parameters you're used to. You don't have to learn any kind of new special syntax to get this to fit into your UI very nicely. So the button displays there, and it handles all its own taps. So when I tapped on it, Overstock didn't have to write any code to handle my tap. The button itself handled the tap. The wallet fragment handled the tap. That brought up the wallet UI, and then at the end of that flow, we returned a mask wallet to Overstock. We returned that mask wallet via the onActivity result callback, just like our existing APIs, so no change there. We still return the data to the applications in the same way. The next screen we saw was the checkout page on Overstock. Now take a look at the top part of that screen. You see the payment method, the Google Wallet, and the shipping address, and the change buttons over there. That's the wallet fragment again, but this time it's in the details mode. Now the rest of the screen, the action bar, the item information, the total tax submit button, all those things, that's just the Overstock app there. All they've done is drop NR fragment on the screen, but you couldn't really tell that these are, these are actually coming from two different processes. That's because we allow a lot of customization of the wallet fragment, especially in details mode. You can customize the background colors, the text colors, text sizes, the button colors. You can provide your own drawables. We wanted to make it where this could fit in seamlessly to an existing application. So it looked like it was built by Overstock, but actually this was built by Google. All this UI is being created separately and injected into the Overstock application. Once again, you have the change buttons there, and any taps of those buttons are handled by the wallet fragment itself. So if the user wanted to change it and say, oh, actually, let me change what shipping address to send this to, then once again, a new mask wallet would be created and returned to the Overstock application via onActivity result. So they had to then recalculate shipping costs or sales tax. They could do that, of course. So wallet fragment kind of addressed this one issue of, here are these common things we see in these applications. Can we make it easier? But just how much easier can we make it? So let's take a look at the code for using wallet fragment. There's just 3 steps to using it. First is you create a fragment. We have a nice little builder method for it. And you have to tell it what mode to put it in. We saw the button mode. We saw the details mode. So you just tell it here what mode to put it in. Next, you initialize it. And this is where you give a mask wallet request to it. The mask wallet request is how you specify things like, hey, I need a shipping address, or maybe I need a phone number, or I don't need a phone number, or maybe I don't need a shipping address at all. That's where you specify those types of things so we know what kind of data to make sure to return to your application. So you initialize the fragment with that request information. And then this is just an Android fragment. So the way you add it to your application is just like you would any other fragment. In this case, using a fragment transaction. You can actually reference the wallet fragment via XML as well, if you like to use XML to do all your layouts. Either option works. It's just like a normal fragment. So you just drop it into your application, just like any other fragment you would do, and that's it. So we think this is pretty easy. We think it can really eliminate a lot of code. In fact, we integrated a wallet fragment into our sample code. So if you go to the Google Play Services client library and the SDK add-on, you'll see the sample application for Wallet. And if you get it today, you'll have a version that uses wallet fragment. Now, some of you may recognize the screenshot here. Many folks here use the Garrett code review tool. If you do any Android development, it's sort of the de facto way to do code reviews. So this was the change where we dropped in the wallet fragment and removed the previous code. Altogether, we got rid of 800 lines of code from our sample application by switching to using the wallet fragment. Now, if you're a new developer, new to Wallet, you won't even want to bother with the old way. Just go straight to using the wallet fragment. If you've done an existing integration, then you can really eliminate a lot of code like we did.
1,100 lines of code, Michael? I'm just a product manager. I didn't realize developers write that much code just for a button. Yeah,
it actually is true. When we're not watching World Cup games, we do write a lot of code. But with wallet fragment, you can write less code.
Right.
OK, so wallet fragment makes it even easier to integrate Instant Buy. But again, it wouldn't even matter if Instant Buy wasn't a compelling product. As Prakash kind of went over some of these points earlier, The reasons you want to use Instant Buy, the top two here, faster checkout, don't make people type in credit card numbers. Use the credit cards they've already got. Skip registration and sign in. Don't make someone have to remember some other crazy password that they're probably going to forget or just going to use the same password they've used everywhere else and create some more security problems. Just use Google Sign In for that. It's more secure. It's secure for the users. They are able to protect their information. They don't share their full credit card numbers. It's more secure for you guys. Google's risk engine is always looking out for fraud, always protecting the transactions. And then you saw how lightweight the integration can be. I just showed you the wallet fragment part, which we've made even easier. But as Prakash mentioned earlier, most developers are able to do all the integration in about a week. We try to keep it super light. On Android, we're part of Google Play Services. So if you get the Play Services client library, just compile it into your code. You may already have the Play Services client library if you're using things like Sign-In or Maps or G+, any of those things. It's the same client library. And finally, no additional fees, of course. We're just giving you a credit card that you're using just like you would any other credit card. So you send it to your payment processor. So there's nothing extra happening here, no extra fees from Google. So we talked earlier about how we want to go not just in payments, but really Wallet is going beyond payments into commerce. So I'm going to hand it back over to Prakash to talk about how we're doing that.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So just for some context, last year at I/O, we introduced something called Wallet Objects. So essentially, it's a notion of taking digitizing your entire physical wallet, not just your payment cards, but your loyalty cards, your offers, and putting it into the cloud, the Google Cloud, and accessing it from any device. So I personally, I get inundated with emails, with offers. I sign up for loyalty programs. I forget what I sign up for. And then when I actually need to use it, I don't have a contextual way to retrieve it. So that's the problem we are solving. We are freeing your customers from having to carry these physical cards for loyalty, these printed offers when they want to redeem a coupon. All they have to do is save to Google on your mobile app or your site, and they're done. But there's more to it than that. So the other thing is branding and reach. If you have a loyalty card that you put through Save to Google, you get real estate in the Google Wallet. And I'm going to show you a demo of how this works. So you get more distribution and branding. The third thing I want to talk about is engagement and also redemption. So I'll give you an example. I have a Walgreens loyalty card. When I go in a Walgreens store, I get notified. So I have my balance rewards number. I don't need to carry my physical card. And if I have an offer, I can actually redeem it there. So it's what I call smart notifications. I don't get notified if I'm like driving by or walking by. I get it when I'm in the store, so it's not spam. And what it helps you as a developer is through this contextual notifications, it drives engagement, and I'm more likely to redeem that offer. I'm more likely to use that loyalty card if it's in the palm of my hand. So let me give you an example, and we're going to actually use a real partner app. So first, just for context, this is the Google Wallet app. So as you can see, I don't have any offers saved right now. This is, if I had any offers saved to Google, you would have seen them here. And now what I'm going to do is go to the Belly app. So Belly is one of my favorite apps. I love offers, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm still hungry. So I'd like to, so continuing with that theme, let me save this jerk chicken wrap offer. As you can see, it's very simple. I save it to Google. And like I said earlier, when you do that, it's saved to the cloud, and I can access it anytime. But don't take my word for it. So let's go back. And as you can see, the offer showed up right here. So now when I'm walking past 876 Cafe, I'll get a geo notification saying, here's this offer. Do you want to use it? And I can use it. I can save money as a consumer, and it can drive engagement for you as a developer or brand. So this is, again, going back to commerce is more than just payments, and we are trying to cover that entire life cycle of a consumer's journey. So the other, I think, just in terms of other housekeeping notes, I'd also like to, before we wrap up, just do a few pointers. One is, I mentioned earlier, we have Sandbox open to everybody, so I'd encourage you to go to our developer site. It's developer.google.com/wallet. We have an interest form if you want to sign up for Instant Buy. We have also an interest form if you want to sign up for Wallet Objects. And the other thing is if you want to talk to us in person, we have an office hours session today at 1 p.m. So I'd encourage you all to come by if you'd like to have a further detailed discussion on anything we talked about today.
And just to reiterate one thing on the signups, for Instant Buy, you can install the Play Services client library and start developing against our sandbox immediately. There's nothing to sign up for. You can do it right now from your laptop if you have it with you. There is an interest form to fill out for production access. The Save to Google APIs, they're kind of in a beta phase right now. So you need to fill out the interest form with us, and then we'll give you access to those APIs as well.
OK, great. So we'd like to keep the floor open for questions now. We'd love to hear from you about any questions you have, especially on the challenges you might be having with monetization. Go ahead.
I'm actually just curious to know how Google actually makes money from this. Are you not getting any fees from the partners? And then just a second question, just philosophically, how has Google thought about payments changing over time in terms of where you were 5 years ago and what Google Instant Pay is today?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think, as I said earlier, this is a free product. So we're really focused on the consumer experience. What we would like to do, I mentioned earlier, we are in a mobile-first world. And we really believe there's a big problem that is not being tackled, which is the mobile shopping experience. So what we'd like to do is improve that shopping experience by reducing friction, driving conversion, because that's something that our consumers are asking for. That's something our retailers and advertisers are asking for. So that's our main driver behind being in the space. In terms of how we see payments evolving, like I said earlier, I kind of gave you more than a hint about that. I said we're looking at the whole commerce journey, the whole shopping journey. And what we are trying to do is help the consumer along every point in that journey. And to us, payments is one element of it. The other elements where we think we can bring value is things we are demonstrating in the partner showcase. So for example, I mentioned earlier, like with the hotel tonight, not only can you use two-click checkout, you can actually use Google Assets, Google APIs to get keyless entry. With Jack Threads, not only can you use two-click checkout, you can actually have a virtual hangout, try something on from your living room before you actually buy it online. With E24, you can be watching your favorite football game on Android TV and order it from there. So that's the future we see, where you actually make it a delightful commerce experience for the user and put not just payments, but the other Google assets as part of that journey. Go ahead, please.
Hey. You guys talked a lot about physical goods, but a lot of the people you listed are obviously services and/or/digital goods potentially. In light of that, can you guys talk about how since you're on Android and iOS, Play Store policies come into play, and when you can use Wallet versus when you have to use the Play Store for different aspects of purchasing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we said physical goods, we meant physical goods and services. If you have digital goods, we have a great API, Google Wallet in-app billing. So we'd encourage you to use that. And the other thing is these are two very different things. That Google Wallet in-app billing is a solution that also processes your payment, provides you distribution, and many other things that you can read up on our website. What we are offering is specifically designed for physical goods. We do not process your payment. So anything that you have that's a digital good, consumed on or off the device, should use the in-app billing API. Anything like purchasing a ticket or a physical good would be the Google Wallet Instant Buy API. And if you want, I'm happy to chat with you after the session and walk through in more detail. And
just add one thing to that. The Play in-app billing does a lot of awesome things for you in terms of keeping track of what orders as a user, what items has a user purchased and all that. So it's a very, very rich API, whereas this is very much focused just on facilitating payments.
Go ahead.
If you already have a pretty optimized flow for return customers on your website or app, is it possible to have the first visit go through this system and then the return visit just go through your regular system? Can you reuse that information a second time or a third time or a fourth time?
So one key aspect to Instant Buy is that we are generating a one-time card. So that card's not meant to be reused over and over again. That's part of the security that we provide to users, that if that card was somehow compromised, the risk there to them is very limited. But otherwise, yes, I think what you're talking about would definitely be possible. But just keep in mind that you can't just reuse that same card that you used last time from Instant Buy.
So is there a way to get like a new card without showing the user the whole flow? Like if they want to say, I want this again, or do you have to send them all the way back through and have them pick an address and a credit card and everything?
I think a lot depends on how your flow works exactly, but we do think it's very important that people see what card is getting charged for them. So we do think it's important to display that information and give them a way to change it in case they're like, oh, I don't want to use that card anymore,
Yeah,
or there's a shipping address.
I assume you could still show the last 4 digits, right? The ones that are shown in the
So yeah, if I failed to mention earlier when I went through the Overstock demo, but you might have noticed there was a checkbox saying use Wallet as my default in the future. Pardon me, if you leave that checked, then in the future you kind of skip the Wallet UI part. But we still ask that you show that information to the user. We think that's a good user experience for them to see that and to know what's getting charged.
I have one more question, but he can go next.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Is there an option for revenue sharing? Because in PayPal, for instance, I develop a site and I get a cut of the payment, right? And it's just automatic. I don't have to do anything. So is there an option in Google Wallet for revenue sharing? I've asked the question like last year too, and the person said, yeah, we're looking at that.
So I think first, just to reiterate what we said earlier, we don't process your payment. So PayPal processes your payment. The way our model works is whoever you're using for processing, like Braintree or Stripe or Payment Tech, you'll continue using that. And we don't charge any fees. So that's one fundamental distinction we have, because, again, I don't have the specifics of this revenue sharing thing that you have. But
We don't take any of your revenue.
Exactly.
So
No, I see. So but there is a Google Wallet, some kind of, when you say in-app, there's an in-app web version, not only Play Store, right? I know I use it, right? Is there a different group then?
So that's a different product for the web, and that does have a revenue share associated to it.
So there is a revenue share for that one? I'll talk to you afterward then.
Yeah, please come by the office hours. We can go into that. Absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi. So I have a question. How many of the total users for Android specifically, how many actually has a wallet account, percentage-wise?
So we don't disclose those numbers, but I think you probably saw the presentation yesterday on the growth of Android, and you saw the show of hands earlier when I said how many of you have made a purchase on Play or any other property on Google. So essentially, anyone who's made a purchase on Play has set up a Google Wallet account.
Percentage-wise, do you know how much is that? 30%, 90%? Or?
So we don't share those numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the funnel eventually.
Right.
If the user doesn't have a wallet.
Right. I agree, great question. So the best way I can answer it is with public information in our case studies. So I talked earlier about E24, 1 of every 3 transactions on Android after they implemented is with Google Wallet. I talked about the other 4 case studies too, where they had a similar share of wallet. So I would say that's probably your best signal in terms of the traction we have with Google Wallet.
Okay. And by the way, if I don't have a wallet account, does the checkout button become a register button, sort of?
Great question. So if you click on Buy with Google, so when Michael showed the demo on Overstock, if you don't have a wallet account, it's going to guide you to the setup screen. But even there, thanks to Michael, we've been able to reduce friction. So what I mean by that is we use our Places autocomplete API, so you don't have to enter your full address. We have OCR, so you can actually take a picture of your credit card. We didn't show a demo of the setup, but we've tried to even make that as painless as possible in Google Wallet.
And once you set up there, then you can use that same wallet account on all Google properties, including in Play.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just wondering how this works outside of the credit card ecosystem. So if you're dealing internationally, for instance, in where I come from, the Netherlands, 70–80% of all transactions are with online banking.
Okay, great question. So today, this is a US-only product. That's all I can say. But obviously, we get a lot of, one thing I didn't mention earlier is we take your feedback to heart. So a lot of the features we have this year were based on feedback we've gotten in the past. So all I can say is, yes, we hear you loud and clear, and stay tuned.
Thank you.
For the coupon and loyalty card program buttons, is that only for brick and mortar retail, or does it work for websites and things too?
You can use it for websites too, but one of the things I talked earlier about was driving engagement and redemption. So we found it resonates most with an in-store component. Because when we've talked to our developers, they said, I want to get somebody in my store. I want it to be very contextual. So we have found the focus we have, you can use it for, like I said, more than that, but we found most of the traction and interest we have is for our retailers who actually have an in-store component.
Thank you.
Yeah, like when you create one of those offers, you can put your geofence locations for your stores, for example. So then, as Prakash mentioned, when users walk into your store, they get notified, hey, I've got this offer to you. So we definitely found a lot of value for physical locations, but it does work for purely digital as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you. Everything you've talked about today has been around mobile, and I just want to confirm a statement that I heard you say early on in the presentation. This is available also on desktop, correct?
Yes. So we are available across all major platforms, Instant Buy Everywhere, Android, iOS, mobile web, and desktop. And we actually do have partners who have done that integration across all platforms, Orbitz, Fancy, which I talked about. We have more than a dozen developers who have actually gotten value not just on mobile, but across the entire platform spectrum.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Sure.
Hi. I'm from Overstock, so we were part of that integration. So one thing I wanted to this was more of a, plug feedback kind of a thing. 67% of users who come on who do buy with Google Wallet, there's a 67% conversion once they do buy with Google Wallet. So we're really excited about the conversion rate.
Thank you.
And we're really happy with that integration. I guess the one feedback we'd like to provide is maybe if you could raise the dollar amount that you guys support on the back end.
Sure, that's a great piece of feedback. So one thing is with the one-time card, we have a limit of $2,000 per transaction. We are looking at various things, and generally we have found that for the majority of our customers, it fits into their 95th percentile of transaction size. But that's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, we limit things again as security for our customers, for Google Wallet users. So that way, again, if there is any kind of compromise, the amount of damage that can be done is very limited. But we certainly understand as there are apps out there where the transaction amounts can be greater than that amount. So we hear you.
Great. Unless there's any other questions, so again, we'll be there at office hours, 1 p.m. In the pod. So we look forward to seeing many of you there. And thank you again for coming.